Hey, mate. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, really well. Really well. I'm tired. I think I had too much MSG last night, but yeah,
No
otherwise
such
I'm
thing.
fine. Otherwise I'm fine.
Good.
Yeah, lockdown treating you okay? Or absence of? We're getting out of it now?
Yeah, good. I actually went to. I walked down the street and went to a bunch of shops. Didn't buy anything, but it was nice to just browse the aisles.
Yeah, you just went outside because you can and
Yeah,
yeah, licked some things, touched some
yeah, good.
people. Yeah,
That's it.
yeah, nice. Hey, let's quickly jump through all of the normal things that we've got to jump through so we can get our guests in and we can start
Yeah.
talking about the Mandalorian. So for anyone that is listening, Sean's going to talk you through us.
Yes. So Blue Bantha Milk Co. You can find us on Facebook and YouTube. Our Facebook page is growing exponentially because we posted something about The Last Jedi that people agreed with and disagreed with. So we got a lot of content, I guess. I heard that. YouTube,
Reactions.
like, subscribe. Yes, reactions. Thank you. That's it. We got some passionate reactions. Find us on Twitter, Blue Bantha Milk.
Find me on Twitter anyway.
Find him on Twitter, but only for 15 minutes a day.
Yeah. Twitter is a bad place, so I'm kind of keeping that as limited as I can, and I'm being strict about it too. So yeah, if it takes me 24 hours to get back to you, it's because I used up my minutes.
That's it. And I occasionally do post on there, but I have something really weird to post, and I'm just trying to decide when to do it. But we'll see. Look forward to that, Matt. Spoilers. And obviously, check out our Patreon. We've got some incredible patrons who keep the lights on. So yeah, check that stuff out. And be sure to hit like.
Yeah, please hit like on the stream. That helps it get boosted up. All right, let's get our guests in so that we can actually start talking about the Mandalorian. So let's do it reverse alphabetically. So let's get in Rayven from Sistas with SABERS.
Hello.
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you? Hello, everyone.
Yeah, good. Really well. And next in, we've got Bryan from Pink Milk.
Hello.
How are y'all doing?
Wigs are about to be blown off. I'm very excited.
That's the way I like it. That's the way I like it.
This looks like a wig, but it's not.
This is, but it doesn't come off that easy.
Lick everything.
Lick everything, Sean. Yep. Thanks, Claire.
Handrails, doorknobs, get it done.
Yeah.
So, in full disclosure, I am in like full fanboy mode. It's like a new movie's out. I've been up since 2:30 in the morning because I am just ready for Mando to start. So things could get loopy,
by all means,
but in the best possible way.
Yeah, that's totally
I love
cool,
it,
man.
I'm ready. I'm so ready. I'm more than ready.
Have you done a rewatch? Have either of you like done a full rewatch?
I did. This past weekend, I did a rewatch, and then I rewatched the Gamma Ray mixed up reactions because I love it so much, and I love it so much.
Yeah, so I've rewatched it like 6 times. We just got off doing 10 hours of a queer roundtable. So we have like 5 podcasts that are like 10 hours long of a bunch of us queer folk talking about the Mandalorian. Actually, it's really not so much about the Mandalorian. It turned out to be more about living queer life in the world in 2020. But yeah, so I'm fresh off of a rewatch.
Fantastic.
That's cool.
Yep.
So 6 times. Rayven, how many times for you, though?
I'm going to plead the 5th. Yeah.
5 times.
I'm going to be that guy. I finished my first rewatch last night. So,
very nice.
Yeah. I needed a break from it, actually.
Oh, yeah.
And so, like, Sean, you remember, like, we were fucking all in on this, like, when it came out. But, like, I don't know why. I hit something and I just went, okay, I've seen it all, and I'm not going to rewatch it for a while. I don't feel this, like, need to do it for some time. I don't know why. I can't quite put a finger on it, but there I am. And did the rewatch last night with actually, my friend Claire, Lick Everything Claire. Yeah, so we tried out that Disney watch party thing. That group watch thing.
Nice.
It's buggy
Is it cool?
as hell.
Is it?
It's really buggy. Like, yeah, it doesn't quite always launch properly, but when it launches, it's okay. And all you can do is emojis in it. It's a little bit useless in that sense. So we ended up with a messenger group just open as well, and we were typing and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, so watched it again last night and got through all of it. And yeah, those last 2 episodes really packed a bit of an emotional punch again. Like, really, and maybe that's why I needed the break. It was just like, oh god, like Quill dying. I was just
Yeah.
Like,
that one was heartbreaking. I remember just being like, just I couldn't believe it.
Yeah. Sean, what about you? How's your rewatch gone? When did you finish up?
Yeah. I finished a couple of days ago, and I'd sort of, in the course of the year, sort of rewatched different episodes, but for this one, sort of had this big plan to watch like 1 episode a week leading up to it, then completely failed and watched them all in a week. But yeah, those last 2 episodes are really kind of, I watched those as like as a movie, just watched it in one long thing and was just like, this is, I think that is really as good as the show can be. That really shows what it's capable of. I've said this to you a million times where like there's sometimes the feeling in that first season, like sometimes they're throwing things at the wall to sort of see what they want to make the show into. And rewatching it, and those episodes where he goes to Tatooine and the prison break one, you feel like that's when they're like, oh, well, maybe we could make it like a mission of the week show. And then they finish it off and like, nah, let's just make it. I think they should just make it that. And Disney Plus just released Disney just released like a 90-second recap of the first season. And when you watch it, episode 5 and 6 are just nowhere to be seen. It's just all the Baby Yoda plot. So I think they've sort of been like, we know where it is here. That other stuff's quite fun, and if we can find a way to weave it in, but this is the plot line that people want.
I was gonna say, like, I noticed that. So we didn't skip any of the recaps at the start of each episode. And they also at the recap of the final episode, there's nothing to do with those 2 episodes at all. And I was like, okay. But I've come around on them, and I see Bryan and Rayven here going like this. So okay, who wants to talk through? Let's talk through the middle of the show first, because I think those 2 episodes are kind of like the most hotly debated? Are people debating? I don't know.
I'm not debating with anybody.
You lay down the law. There is no debating.
That's right. There's no debating. I just win.
There you go.
I love you. I think
you'll get over it. They all do.
Bryan, Rayven, who wants to take it first? So let's talk through The Gunslinger, episode 5.
Go ahead, Bryan.
That is my favorite episode of the entire season. I love that episode. I think it is so incredibly important.
How do I kick him out?
I know.
Just and his mic.
I'm just going to
Toro. Do you love Toro so much?
I did. So here's the deal. I was enjoying The Mandalorian when it was going on. I was like, hey, this is good. But it stopped at good. And then, because I'm lame, and I am a massive Dave Filoni fan, I've said it numerous times on our podcast, I think The Clone Wars is my favorite Star Wars. I think it is the benchmark for all of Star Wars to hit forever going forward, including the original trilogy. It is so good. Why I ever had doubt in Dave Filoni is beyond me, because when that show finishes, especially on a rewatch, and you kind of look at the whole thing together, every bit makes sense. And we know, Dave, that dude will sprinkle in some unnecessary paprika, and you're like, why are you putting that in there? And then all of a sudden the meal's cooked 2 seasons later, and you're like, oh, well, that's why we put it in there. And I think that's what chapter 5 is. I think it says a lot about the galaxy as a whole, going back to a very familiar place. I'm also someone who loves Tatooine, and we can go back every single movie, every episode. I'm good with going back to Tatooine. And I will finish it with Cad Bane as the gunslinger.
Yeah, could be.
If I may just react to that point, I think there was, when it first came out, and there was a lot of talk about it being a filler episode. And I remember saying, like, again, me and Matt talking about this when we did recaps and stuff. But it's only a filler episode if you know the whole story. I think that's the thing. Like, it's easy to look at something when you want to rewatch and say, oh yeah, that doesn't really, if you watch it, I'm watching Breaking Bad now, and there's been a few little plot lines where I'm like, well, that doesn't go anywhere. That's just a filler plot line just to make up time. But I only know that because I've seen the full story. Mm-hmm. And I think it's hard to say in like the first season of a show, 5 episodes in, oh, this is meaningless and it doesn't go anywhere. Whereas there might be a whole episode in the next season, or the season after that, or the season after that, where you're like, ah. So yeah, no, I think you're right. I think Filoni plays the long game.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I might just very quickly before Rayven comments, because of lockdown, watching a ton of stuff that maybe I hadn't been able to watch previously, or hadn't had the time to, and I'm sitting there twiddling myself, like watching Netflix and all that. Old shows, particularly network television, would do. I've noticed do that a bit, and some other TV. It's like, yeah, you'll have a couple of episodes that are wedged in, and then maybe the next season, the episode recap, like prior to the show, will flash back and be like, previously on the blah blah blah, and it's that episode that you watched and that just felt like a bit of a bottle that just sits there, and then it's like, oh, okay. And I mean, they leave enough stuff at the end of the gunslinger to be like, yeah, okay, well, there's what's her name?
Fennec Shand.
I was going to say Hennick Fan. Yeah, so she's around, and there's the mysterious spurs on the feet guy or girl. I don't know who, but anyway, Rayven, what do you think?
Well, I liked all of the episodes. I'm one of those people where I can find something that I like in anything, especially if it's in a universe or a galaxy that I'm familiar with, and characters that I can get behind. As we all know, I am a Boba Fett fan since the beginning. So for me, the idea of The Mandalorian was really exciting. Oh my goodness, someone else in that same armor. Yeah. Tell me more about what that means. So for me, being episode 6 is my happy place. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it on Star Wars level. I enjoyed it on that girl who sees Clancy Brown and immediately thinks of the Kurgan as opposed to anybody else that he's ever played. To see Bill Burr. Yeah. And to see Bill Burr and just go, oh my God, Bill Burr. And then to completely forget it was Bill Burr immediately after his face showed up, because I thought he did fantastic for what he was. I mean, he played that character like that's who he is. One of the reactor guys said, it's the Boston corner of Star Wars. And it was just like, you're just thinking there's somewhere on Coruscant where there are Red Sox is what I'm saying to you. And he's that guy, right? I loved that episode because what I thought it was doing, certainly not in the line of the story as we've talked about, but what I thought it was doing was trying to tell us a little bit about Mando from other people's point of view, right? Mm-hmm. Because what we're finding out is what his old boss thinks. He thinks he's the guy that can do it. He thinks he's the guy with the ship that can do it. He thinks they need him, and then each of them have to come to that realization that, oh, he's super badass. And I mean, we all liked the Mandalorians going throughout the series and stuff like that. And we've always heard about how badass they are. But if you're a casual fan who's only seen the movies, how badass are they?
Yeah, you don't have that, do you? Yeah.
You've seen this happen. You've seen this happen live, getting sucked into the Sarlacc pit. He did not look cool there. And then, Jango gets his head chopped off, by Mace Windu in the most awkward sword play I've ever seen in my life. I love you, Samuel, but that was the worst stroke ever. But I digress. But you know what I mean? It's just like, this was where we got the opportunity to see how dangerous and how scary the knight in shining armor could be if the knight in shining armor wasn't always the good guy. And isn't that why Wolverine has been so characteristically popular over the years? Because while he is absolutely a good guy, you absolutely know he's perfectly willing to be the bad guy if that's what it takes.
Yeah.
And you can't always be that way. So to me, I thought it was a really good indication of that, giving us a little bit more of who he is, so that we would know better how to think about what he was going to do when he came into those real situations, you know, dealing again with Cara Dune and everybody else that we're going to see more, you know, more and more. I mean, because I think we all kind of knew that at that point, that she was probably going to come back and we were going to see more of Grief Karga. We knew that was coming. And so you knew also that these people were not going to stay, but they were there for a reason. They were to tell you who Mando was.
Yep. And I think that's where I've sort of come around on it a bit more. Like I think on the macro view of those, particularly those 2 episodes, it's like, yeah, okay, I see the purpose of this. And I think where I originally kept the first 4 episodes and kind of treated them like a singular arc, I'm starting to sort of put episode 4, 5, and 6 together now as this kind of one arc of Mando basically trying to just go about his normal life in a sense, like just trying to get on with it, but with this attached baby, you know, like he's got the baby, and he has to show everyone who he actually is, because really we've seen him operate, like you said, Rayven, one gun, you know, shoot once or twice outside of the Gatling gun, and not do too much more, like other than kind of like take out some stormtroopers. Then he gets his ass kicked a bit and he's getting overrun and it seems like he might make bad decisions. Like, okay, well, does this guy have the chops to be a hero or not? So I agree now. It's like, yeah, okay. He goes into 4 and it's like at the end of it, he wants to offload the baby. He's realizes like, yeah, the baby really isn't for me. You know, I don't want to do this. And then realizes he can't do it. And then he tries to go about his normal routine, it seems like. You know, it's like, oh, I need to get some money. I need to do all these things. I'm just going to bring the baby along and just leave it in the ship. I'm going to leave it in danger. And it's like, and that's what really stood out to me about those episodes in particular. It's like he had to realize that there's a responsibility that comes along with this child. Really, like, yeah, it took a bit. It took a year of me sitting on it and going, nah, I don't like that.
Sometimes that happens, though.
Yeah. Well, in the thing that we're writing about Mandalorian and fatherhood, like actually sitting down and thinking about it and writing it, I came to the sort of same conclusion of like, this is him trying to see if he can balance being a parent and having a day job, you know, kind of trying to find that work-life balance, but in a very sci-fi genre-y way of like, yeah, you know, if your day job was being a bounty hunter and you were trying to look after an alien baby, could you balance the 2 things? And at first he definitely can't. Because like you say, he is just sort of like, whoever can look after this baby can look after it, or I'll just like put it in this cupboard on the spaceship with all these criminals. It'll be just fine.
Just fine, yeah. No worries.
But that's part of having a child too. When you're around a baby in that full-time sense at the beginning, and people with more than one child can attest to this. The first time, you're sterilizing nipples, you're sterilizing bottles. Oh my God, don't let it get near anything. Then it might be a germ. And by the third one, you're picking the nook up and sticking it in your mouth and then giving it to the kid. And that's all you need because, you know, mom or dad's spit is the same chemical composition as Formula 409. And you know that when you first started, like that would never have happened. You had the outlets were covered and that's all a learning process. Now, of course, in this show, he goes through it a little bit quicker, but he is literally dealing with, and I think any of us would, you're dealing with a 50-year-old baby. So in your mind, you're thinking it's got to be somewhat developed. And at the same time, clearly it isn't. I mean, it is, but it isn't. But I think it's a weird dichotomy that he's having to deal with because clearly, I mean, kid can lift a mud horn, not completely defenseless. and yet at the same time doesn't seem to know that, you know, crashing the spaceship, you know, is not a good idea.
Yeah.
So I think it's that thing that all parents go through at the beginning, where you are terrified of all the things that can go wrong, and you worry about all of them. And then as the experience goes by, you start to realize the things you actually have to be worried about, like leaving the kid alone in the ship, which is a bad idea. I wouldn't leave a kid alone in a padded walled room with a locked door, but you know,
I think
particularly with a droid. Like, I mean, episode 6. Yeah,
droid's
like,
gonna find him. Come on now.
my God, of course. Sorry, Brian, I jumped in over you.
No, that's great. I think I didn't particularly enjoy Chapter 6 at first. After our roundtables, I learned to appreciate it a lot more. I thought it was a beautiful looking episode, but it was not necessarily my cup of tea. One of the people on our roundtable compared it to the Cowboy Bebop episode of the season, which, like, I am a really big Cowboy Bebop stan, so I started to rewatch it differently. But one of the things that I think, like I've said it, I think the show is so incredibly queer coded. I have an inability. I think I mentioned it when I was first with you guys back in June. I have an inability to see it another way. And we meet the Mandalorian quite literally coming out of the closet. He's got this round door that pops up, and he goes to a bar, just like a lot of us in our community do. And we meet Mando at the beginning of the series in a transitional period. He's trying to figure out who he wants to be. We don't know that yet, but he doesn't know what the next step is. He's a little bit lost in how do I interact with the world now that I've kind of come to terms with something about myself that I haven't shared with everybody else yet. And we get to Chapter 6, and we see his old crew. They're the people who saw him when he was a straight guy, and they don't know him as the out and queer person yet. So he can very easily still hop back in that role. And he does. And it's the first time that he does not get his butt kicked. I mean, that dude is not great. He goes and goes and goes, and that's how he wins. But then we see him in this lethal position because that's where he's still comfortable. He is not out very long, and he's there, but he doesn't want to be. And you can feel the anguish in him in that episode after he takes everybody out. That is not what he wanted to do. And now he has this child who he has to take care of. And he's like, I got to figure myself out real quick because I have somebody else here now. And I think it was after that episode that he was willing to take the responsibility of being a parent. And then what do we have? 2 years later, he goes to his drag mother and says, boom, you're a parent now. It's a really, really important episode that, again, fool Dave Stan I am, that I didn't pick up on that stuff to begin with.
Yeah. So what's been really interesting through this process, listening to a few podcasts as well, and going back a year later and listening to other people's recaps, listening to where people predicted things would go, and I guess as well their interpretations and whatnot. And being I like mythology and all this sort of stuff, and so listening to you speak, Brian, about it, and I guess the lens that you can see it through, and then I compare that to say Once Upon a Time in the Outer Rim, the podcast that What the Force was doing, and is definitely very, very heavy on the mythology side of things. And something that sort of strikes me about the show is that it's so well templatable, I guess, in some respects. I can see how everyone could, from different communities and walks of life and life experience, could kind of imprint on it and go, oh my God, that is, like Brian, you say, queer coded. In this podcast, I haven't heard queer coded come up once, but they're seeing like heroes and heroines journey stuff throughout the whole thing. Something that kind of links up I think in a lot of it is this reestablishing of or reintegration of feminine traits into masculine traits, and not just being guns, 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 because that is a fucking terrible way to live. And so seeing, I think there's some intersection there. Rayven, have you got any sort of particular takes on it as well? Like that might be unique or different?
I don't know that I do in this particular case. I think because when it comes to something maybe being coded, I might miss it just in general. And the reason I can say that as a sister who's, who is very involved and concerned about representation and identifying with characters on whatever level you identify, because I think we all do it differently. I'm one of the few people who doesn't identify with people in that way. I identify with characters on a character level. I like Mando. I think he's cool and he's great and I'm so into it, but is he my favorite character? No, because I don't have a whole lot in common with Mando. Not because I think he's queer coded or not because I think it's just simply his character doesn't hit for me. I am a tomboy. I am a girl that, turns down everything to watch sports. So to me, the chick kicking ass is like somebody I so much more identify with, even though we don't actually have anything in common for me to really identify with on a physical level, certainly, but on a personal level, like, we're right here. And so for me, and I saw certainly representation because I felt like there were so many different kinds of characters of everywhere. There's not two white people in any scene. It's always somebody else. So it's great. And of course you've got Carl Weathers. And as a Black person, I'm perfectly happy for him to be the representation we begin with because wow. But yeah, I don't really identify in that way, but I would say, and I know there's some issues with the lady playing Cara Dune, but Cara Dune as a character is the best thing little girls could possibly see. And I mean it on every level because she is strong, powerful, smart, dependable, beautiful at the same time. Nothing about her is taking away from or, from anything that she is. She's all of those things at one time. And, it is unfortunate that the lady playing her, has, well, anyways, we're not going to get into that. But my point being, it's unfortunate because it was a character that had the capability of being somebody really, really, really formative. And I'm sad to see that go. Because honestly, that was the character that I was tuning in for to live vicariously through. And it's unfortunate for me that I cannot do that now just because I feel that disregarding what other people think is just crappy. You don't have to agree. That's fine. Yeah. But disregarding and to openly say, your opinion doesn't mean anything to me. And I don't care if it bothers you that my opinion hurts your feelings or how I'm handling it. So for me, that's just not something I can overlook. Having said that, the character is phenomenal. The character is phenomenal. And this is one thing that Star Wars needs to do better. We do try to give our women, a lot of oomph, as it were. And I would like to see that continue. I would like to see it continue in this more upfront way, that a woman can be a woman without losing any of that and still whoop your ass. Because we can. Like in real life, some of us actually can.
It's true. It's categorically true.
Absolutely.
It's one of the, and I know it's kind of risky being the straight white guy commenting about these kinds of things, but it's the thing that stands out to me a little bit about Wonder Woman. It's like, yep, cool. So every Amazonian in the background, like fuck, Brooke Entz, like champion CrossFitter is in the background. There's these tough, strong women, their background.
Yep.
Gal Gadot is up front, and
because
it's like,
we're
cool.
Afraid.
Like, it's a tough thing. So like seeing, yes. Oh, what's her name? I've actually just drawn Cara Dune, but the actor. What's her name?
Gina Carano. Okay, Gina.
Oh, Gina. Yeah. So like having Gina there, like present something that you do not see very often, particularly on television. Like
No.
you don't see it very, very frequently. And when you do see it in films, it's in the kinds of movies that Gina Carano stars in. So they're generally more B sort of action flicks.
Mhm.
So I'm kind of glad in one sense as well that a lot of what she's said and all that stuff will probably just pass by the majority of people. I mean, she did it all on Twitter. She basically shit the bed a bit. And yep, cool. Twitter is what the microcosm of fandom. It's a percentile of a percentile of a percentile. So like kids seeing it aren't going to really kids seeing the show aren't really going to be exposed to that unless someone goes out of their way to show them that. And like kids generally don't care too much about the actors anyway. I hope she sorts her shit out though.
Yep.
That's one thing I'll say.
It's been
Well, it would be nice.
Yeah.
That's been really hard for me because as a fan of stories, no matter what form they are presented in, like I'm a big animation person, so it's usually easier for me to fill in that way. I am not someone, I go out of my way to not learn a lot about actors. I don't want to know the celebrity gossip. I don't care about those things. Usually I'm all about the character, and that I refer to all these people as the character, not the actors playing them. That's my way to escape into the things. I don't want those two worlds to collide. But I will say this has been really, really hard for me. And I think having the we are an LGBTQ plus podcast, I think that has changed the way I look at things over this past year. And it's opened my eyes beyond some of those things. I don't know what kind of spoilers we want to talk about, but a rumored character who may or may not be coming into season 2, who is my personal favorite character ever in Star Wars, has some of the same issues possibly going on with the actor portraying them. And I'm already worried about turning into the fandom menace over if Ahsoka isn't treated well. Sorry, spoilers. I just said.
I think we all know.
Okay. So I'm already before the Gina had to open her stupid mouth, which, by the way, I just Pride from The Rise of Skywalker to come into the Mandalorian season 2, run into Cara Dune in a hallway. The dude's very good with the blaster. Let's just get her gone. We can find another character that can fill the role that she fills, because I agree that character was so incredibly important. But do not waste the importance of a character on that with someone who, one, is not willing to do what that character would do. We see the character in the show starting to change. And now she in real life is... Lady, hold a mirror up to your script and start acting learn something from your character, because she's not doing it right now and I'm really irritated. Yeah. But I will move on. But it is hard, and I really we've been talking about this a lot. I want to be able to love Cara Dune because I loved that character. She was awesome. And I'm having it's the first time I think reality has met story for me in my life that I'm I want to get there, but I'm on the train of wanting to be able to look past it.
That's fair enough.
Question here from Hannah is, so do we think that Gina is still redeemable? And I might answer quickly before anyone else does. Actually, I'll leave it up on screen just so that we can talk about it for a second. I think yes, but I don't think redeemable and Twitter necessarily works well together. I think the expectation of people apologizing for making crass statements or being offensive or anything like that on Twitter works at the same speed of Twitter, and it ends up being performative and false. Someone goes out and says something, they get 1,000 retweets and people and 1,000 comments calling them out on it, and then in an hour they'll turn around and go, I'm going to reflect on this and I apologize and blah blah blah, and I'm going to use this situation to be a better person. It's bullshit. That I find those kinds of apologies quite performative. But is she redeemable? Yes. I think she actually needs to take some time off and just back away, and then maybe come back, I don't know, a couple months later. Come back halfway through the season. It's been long enough, and actually say, hey, look, I said some stuff. I don't know, reading it, it was kind of like when you back a family member into the corner and they've got a crappy idea about something and they just dig their heels in. it struck me that way. It's just like, didn't matter what it was, she would have dug her heels in. That's maybe her personality. But then what happened afterwards, I don't know. Anyway, what does everyone else think? Does anyone else think that sort of she could make amends with this?
Yeah. I mean, I think the thing is, like, it depends. This specific situation is something that we're seeing so much of people like really getting into this like transphobia thing and then just being like, you know what? I'm going to double down on this, make it my whole personality.
Yeah.
For some reason. And I've said, and Matt, you've had to put up with me ranting about this so much of like this weird thing of it. It's like the last thing that you can like be a bigot about and assume that you're on the right side of history, knowing that you won't be. Like if you look at I don't want to bring her into this, but J.K. Rowling's whole thing, you like stop for 2 seconds and just have a think about what you're doing, and you'll realize you're wrong, and you'll realize you're on the wrong side of history. This isn't the one where everyone kind of goes, you know what? Misogyny, racism, sexism, they were bad, but this one's okay. This one we like. Yeah. And I think the thing is, for the sort of the ignorance of it and the like you say, the digging your heels in, if Gina Carano stops and kind of says, you know what, I've spoke to people, I've learned, I've done this, I've done that, and she actually makes an effort to sort of like get her head out of her ass, then I think it would be fine. Yeah. But it's an interesting thing to see the way she's acting and the way that like Pedro Pascal's acting, and to see it done completely perfectly right and to be inclusive and to be great, and then to see the complete opposite from her. And you've got to assume at some point Pedro is going to get on the phone and be like, hey, love, let's have a word.
Yeah.
This is nothing. So yeah, I'd like to see it. I'd like to see someone just be like, okay, just take a second, have a rest, have a think. Don't worry about people backing you into a corner. Just have a little think about it. Because if you do, you'll realize you're in the wrong. Yeah, maybe.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, I am someone who does, I put all of my morality into this galaxy far, far away, and this galaxy is all about redemption. And sadly, you die a lot after you're redeemed, but that's what the moral of these is to redeem someone. But it depends where it comes from. I agree. If it's some flash in the pan canned answer, this other, Rosario Dawson comes out as bi now, and which is disappointing. Bisexuals, the B in our community is ignored a lot as it is. But I'm a little, now you're going to do it. Now you're going to do it because you're about to take on this big role. And now you're going to do it because, there's this lawsuit against you. Oh, I couldn't have done that. I'm in the community too. And that to me seems hammy. And I don't want to dismiss if she truly is. That's not, that's a hard thing to do. But it just seems awfully convenient to me to make that announcement now. But I hope. I made a pass to Gina Block. She went on a Twitter blocking spree, and I sent her some of the things. I said, here are 10 hours of podcasts about the words that you used and how it actually affected and all of us in these chats, we're all open to forgiveness, we have to. The world right now, I should speak for my country, we are very much digging our heels in the sand right now, and we're all the country's the client right now. The emaciated stormtroopers are going to die on this hill for what they stand for. And they're not going to last. They're not going to come out at the end. And I agree. Like, I'm cool. If you need to take a minute, I get it. You got a lot thrown on you. You deserve that stuff thrown on you. So I understand the automatic hands up. I can't do this right now. I get it. And I can respect that. As long as you're eventually, as long as those hands come down, then, and make some attempt. I hope so. So.
I guess the thing, and maybe we should probably jump out and start talking a bit more about Mando with the time that we've got left. But I think one thing that I'll say, and I say this fairly consciously, knowing that I'm a straight white dude, I don't think it's anyone's place to say what is and isn't offensive to a community of people other than that community of people. And I think that's part of the problem with all of this. It's she might have said something, misplaced some words. If you give her a little bit of benefit of the doubt, cool. I think everyone gave her enough benefit of the doubt, but then to turn around afterwards, give an explanation that was half, like just not quite there, that wasn't really an apology as such. It doesn't acknowledge that she didn't acknowledge that she has offended people. And that's it. That community was offended by it. Listen to that community to have them let you know how and why. Fix that. Don't say, well, no, beep boop beep. Like, not cool. Anyway, Shannon, thanks for the super chat. Thank you very much. First super chat of the stream. Really appreciate it. Let's dip into something a little bit more upbeat.
A little more fun.
Yeah, a little more fun. So we've spoken a lot about character, and we've spoken a bit about the middle of the show. Let's go back to the start. Let's talk about what we saw at the start of this season, and to help that along, I'll have some clips playing in the background. So I want to talk about the baby, and I want to see the baby.
Best part of the show for me.
So,
oh my God, look at that face.
When this happened, we just did a video recently. Like I put out a video about how up until this moment, or that moment that was just on screen, I didn't know if I was going to like this show. I thought, yeah, okay, cool. Like, Rayven, like you said, do I really see anything about myself in The Mandalorian? Not really. Guy didn't speak. I'm just like, this can't go on. He's got to do something. And I felt like giving him this thing, you could put all your care and your hopes into the baby. I'm not going to stop saying that. And all of a sudden, the show for me clicked. So let's go down the list here. So Sean, talk to me about your reaction of the baby.
Well, yeah, it was
the baby.
No, I can't do Werner. I can't offend Werner. Werner's my boy. I think when I was watching it, when they said, the quarry is 50 years old, and I was sort of instantly like, okay, who would be 50 years old in Star Wars? Like, who's it going to be? Who's going to be like this sort of character who's going to show up? And I was sort of like, it's going to be someone we know, but who's it going to be? And I got stuck on that because I got into sort of too much of a nerdy, what's the callback going to be? What's the cameo, whatever. So obviously when the egg opens and it was Baby Yoda, I was just like completely blown away. But like you, Matt, went from being like, oh yeah, this is good, this is fun, I like the way it looks. I think the music was the thing I was obsessed with in that first episode. I was just like, this is so un-Star Wars-y, but so good. But yeah, when Baby Yoda appeared, I was like, right, I need the next episode now. I need to know what this is, I need to know where this is going, and I want to know what is going on. Yes, Werner.
So good. So funny. Can I offer you a libation to celebrate the closing of our shared narrative? You just gotta exhale. Just exhale while you speak.
Matt, I would like an MP3 version of that, please.
Sorry, Sean.
No, I was done. That's it.
Okay.
When that was it, when the thing appeared, I was just like, right, I'm hooked now. I want to know where this is going. I want to know what this is. And yeah, that was me.
Yep. Let's just, because she's gone off screen, let's throw to Rayven. No. Let's put her on the spot. Bryan, what about yourself?
So when I first saw it, I was just in absolute shock, and I don't think I felt anything because I was just like, what in the world does this mean? This is crazy. How did they keep this a secret? Oh my God, this is the cutest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. What? I immediately, like, when I first came to, I got serious Kanan Ezra vibes from the first episode of Rebels. I still feel that way. And then I just love that it automatically, no offense, Rayven, like, it made it not the Boba Fett show. Like, instantly it softened the show, and this was not going to be a bounty hunter of the week. I'm going to go pew, pew, pew my way through. which this show does. It is. I think the show is so Star Wars. I think it is very, very surface level, pew, 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 week to week. You can have fun, and it's just there. But there's so much underneath everything. I mean, here we are a year later. I like this show more a year later than I did when I was watching it week to week. I have appreciated it so much more. It is like, it has gotten in me so much. I just think this show is so Star Wars. And that just made it. It was just perfect. It was so perfect. I can't even think of anything other than to say it was perfect.
Yeah. Rayven?
I can't disagree. I think it's pretty perfect. I would like to say, though, I may be in the minority here, but when I saw that first episode and they walked in and he's got his little thing and he's like, he gets to the little egg thing, I knew then it was a Yoda. And the only reason I know that is because I am this is known amongst the people who listen to the podcast, but I am a known Return of the Jedi stan, okay? I can recite Return of the Jedi from start to finish in my sleep, okay? And the minute I saw that little egg, I'm like, it's a Yoda. Because it's the only thing that could be 50 years old and be that small. Because he was 900 years old and he would almost fit in that thing. I mean, like when he opened up, I was just like, it is, oh my God. But I was expecting it to be Yoda because at that moment, not before that, not any time before that, but as soon as they showed the little, egg thing, I was just like, it's going to be a Yoda, whatever the hell a Yoda is. I mean, I don't know, but it's going to be one of those because it just immediately clicked with me. But again, Return of the Jedi stan. I mean, seriously, Return of the Jedi stan. So it just immediately hit for me that it was going to be a Yoda. And he's so freaking adorable. It's ridiculous. But in that first episode, I want to say too, I was absolutely blown away by the music. And if for no other reason, I was definitely tuning into the second episode just for that. I mean, don't get me wrong, the show's great, but I would have tuned in again just to hear the music.
Can I say one thing real quick? We were watching that shot from chapter 2 and I'm just gonna call him by his first name, but I really hope between season 1 and season 2, Rick took every director going forward and taught them how to shoot Baby Yoda, because that dude shot that baby like no one I've ever seen. It was every time it was so beautiful. So like he just needed to have Baby Yoda class, a master class on how to shoot Baby Yoda.
Yeah.
I think he's back as well for the second season. I think he's writing one of the episodes actually.
Yep. I'm looking forward to seeing Bryce Dallas Howard's next.
Yeah, she's done one episode.
Yeah, but it was so good. It was so good. It was so good. And maybe that's just me, but dude, Team Bryce over here. Get it, girl. Get it. Yeah. I thought that episode was fantastic. That's exactly the kind of episode that would have bored me to tears. I'm telling you right now, would have bored me to tears. The way that she put it together made it something I would actually enjoy. I mean, I don't watch television. Anybody who knows me will tell you I don't watch television. There are very few shows I watch. So if you got me to actually pay attention long enough to care who directed the episode, you did something right.
Yeah. That I'd agree with you. That episode was probably the one that I think maybe had some of the most risk of being like, oh, I've seen this storyline. Oh, let's teach the villagers how to do it, how to do the thing and how to protect themselves. We've seen that storyline so many times, but yeah, she kind of nailed it. Nailed it. And I thought really visually, the visuals in that episode, like all the night fighting.
Well, right before when you see the ATST and then the people and nothing's happening yet, it's just pointing its guns down at them in that wide shot, and you're just like, wow. Spectacular.
Well, that episode brought in the prequels too. Like I loved the colors in that episode were just made. I automatically went to Attack of the Clones. Maybe it's Jango Fett in the blue, but like I love that it brought in the subtle Mandalorian vibe that you're a casual fan. Tom, my husband who does the podcast with me, isn't going to ever pick up on those things. But like, that's what this show did so brilliantly. It gave everybody everything they needed and created this really, really amazing narrative of and sparked conversation between, like, I mean, super fans were born out of this show. It doesn't matter what age you were, you're going to go back. I think, if I remember correctly, season 7 of the Clone Wars, when it came on Disney Plus, had massive numbers. Those numbers would not have been there if it was not for the success of the Mandalorian and going, you know, Star Wars can not have a lightsaber, and Star Wars cannot have Luke Skywalker and be awesome. It was great. And it is so Dave Filoni. It is a Dave Filoni. I personally feel that Dave Filoni is a much bigger powerhouse behind this than what marketing is leading on. They're leaning on Jon Favreau because he's the name. But it feels so Dave Filoni to me. In like, it's just beautiful.
You get the feeling that Favreau is sort of like, he might be running the show, but anything sort of Star Wars, he defers to Filoni, isn't it? Like, you see that in the making of, like, Filoni picking stuff up and being like, oh yeah, this is like in Sons of Jamovie, and Favreau doesn't know what he's talking about.
He said in Empire Strikes Back, when they're all walking away and they don't see what happens to 3PO. I know exactly which one he said, and I knew exactly what he was talking about too. So I would have been one of those people looking at John like,
dude,
did you watch the movie?
How did you get this job, John?
How did you get this job, John?
What I think I loved about this too, like I'm telling, I can go on and on about how Star Wars-y the show is, which probably doesn't make a lot of sense, but I love the sequel trilogy too. Don't get me wrong, and I don't need to make one versus the other, but I feel like the sequel trilogy was busy making Star Wars movies, and The Mandalorian, and I feel this is Dave Filoni again, told the story they wanted to tell and then dressed it up like Star Wars, which is what Star Wars does. Star Wars is not concerned with making a Star Wars movie. Star Wars, you know, it's concerned with telling a story, and these are the costumes we get to play in, and that comes first. And I don't get that vibe from the other way around. So it was interesting watching the two back and forth, you know, at the same time. This was out before The Rise of Skywalker, and to see those two different ways of telling a Star Wars story was really interesting.
Mandalorian probably has more in common with, and I was only thinking this actually on my rewatch, of like, it's more in common with Rogue One than it does with the trilogies. And I'm a massive Rogue One fan, and I love that idea of like, you've got the Skywalker saga, this big mythological thing, but within that there's all these little bits and dirty little pieces that are going on. And I think that's where like Solo and Rogue One and Mandalorian fit in, like the sort of lesser class of people who are just sort of like trying to make their way in the galaxy, like, well, all this magic dynasty is sort of happening as well, which I think is cool. I think
that for me, that's always been what I loved about Star Wars, because whenever you look at a scene, be it in the casino, on Canto Bight, or, in the cantina, every single character you see in the background, the one that you never noticed before until just now, that's somebody's favorite character. That is what Dave Filoni understands, that I think a lot of people don't understand about Star Wars. I'm a Luke Skywalker stan. That's really easy. He's Luke Skywalker. Okay. But my other stan is this guy who, when I first decided to be a fan, hadn't said a word beyond "he's no good to me, dead." So, but he was exciting. He was interesting. I wanted to know more about him. And he really was just some dude in the background. And everybody loved, there's a real forgetfulness amongst the fandom, and especially the people who make the movies and the TV shows. A lot of times they forget that random dude in the back is somebody's, oh my gosh, I totally identify with him because of how he's X, Y, and Z. And they're going to do better doing this kind of thing, where they're picking up on those outside characters and making them inside characters. And on a TV show, you can do that because you're not worried that you're killing the saga by doing a movie with this character nobody's heard of. Somebody's heard. Somebody cares. Okay, there's a lot of Star Wars fans out there who don't know who Ahsoka is. Okay, they're casual fans, and that's okay. But that's why you can make the Clone Wars and you can make her a star without, you know, the crash down of, you know, the Rise of Skywalker. Yeah. So that's just my 2 cents. Everybody in the back that doesn't show they're on screen for 30 seconds, man, I'm standing for Gecko from now until the end of time. I don't care if he didn't talk.
Yeah, absolutely.
Go, Dominic.
Like, I hope that we get to see Gecko again. Like, I really do. Like, you know, Dominic was so good about keeping very hush hush about that until he could talk about it.
Yeah,
but
and he's been so great after. It's like, man, I didn't get shot. Get out there.
and the community's really gotten behind him. It's great. It's amazing. Very, very quick interjection, Mary. Thank you very much for the super chat. Thank you. We love you.
Talk about sorry, just a quick thing about that background character thing. When I was watching Phantom Menace for my for the rewatch we did in the Road to 9, at one point I was doing like an Instagram story of every time there was a Bantha on screen, and it got really boring because there was loads of them. There's lots of Tatooine in the prequel trilogy, just everywhere. But at one point there was a character in Mos Eisley in the background, and he's a dude in like a spacesuit, and then it's like a skull floating in the helmet. And I'd never seen that before. And I was like, I put on Instagram, I was like, who is this dude? And like instantaneously someone just gave me the Wikipedia page, and I ended up looking at this character and being like, oh, this guy had a full story. And I just never noticed him before. And then when I noticed him, I couldn't stop noticing him. So he appears in the pod race crowd and stuff like that. I'm like, who is this? Make a movie about that guy.
Exactly. And that is exactly how I felt about Boba Fett the first time he was on screen in Empire. I'm like, who is that? What's with the braids and stuff? I gotta know about this guy, you know?
So in this recent rewatch, so we're sitting in Messenger, and my friend Brandon said something about what was happening on screen, and it was when the client is paying the Mandalorian, you know, giving him a little bit of Beskar or whatever, and he's giving him all the Beskar, I think, and said something about the container, and I said, hey, you know Wilro Hood? And the response was just like, what? And that was some little things like that, not necessarily characters, but how they've used just a prop, and now they've given context to that prop to say,
which was, by the way, an old ice cream maker.
So they get an old ice cream maker, they've turned it into a basically a safe. And so now I'm just like, what was Wilro Hood into? Like, what did he do? Where's his money?
Brian, did you watch the gamma rays? Because you seem to be nodding when I mentioned the gamma ray reaction.
It was awesome.
Oh my gosh. And that's what you see when you watch those, is you see these people picking out these itty bitty tiny things where you're like, dude, I've been watching the movies for 40 years. I never noticed that before, but faces, you know, there's a lot of that.
So with the quick side story again, there's a thing called pitch wars, and you enter that and you try and get a mentor when you write a novel, and you try and get a mentor, and there's a list of mentors and you pick them, and then and so on. So I've done it recently, and one of the mentors I picked who was looking at my thing is a guy called Rob Hart. And I'd never really heard of him before. But when I started looking at him, he is writing, he wrote a stote for the Empire Strikes Back from a Certain Point of View book about Mr. Ice Cream Maker dude.
Oh, okay.
He wrote the story about that. So, that just got me thinking backwards. So when that book comes out, there is going to be a story about him. Do you mind explain what is in his Ice Cream Maker safe? So there you go.
They're late. They're like 30 years late, but I'm glad that they're doing it.
They're finally catching up,
Let's, with the remaining time that we've got, talk about the final 2 episodes. So we've gone all the way around. And very quickly, Nathan's asking if we know the release time for Australia. So apparently it's going to be the same as last year for season 2, which was in the US. It was midnight Pacific time, which is 6 p.m. our time. So we get to sit down and eat dinner and watch it, as long as they do it at the same time.
Yeah. I'm not going to sleep tonight. I'm not going to sleep tonight.
Yeah. buffered a tweet about that because like I had so much joy out of knowing that it's like, yeah, we get to watch it during dinner. The UK gets to watch it at breakfast. So it's and I'm actually kind of jealous of the UK. I think they get it at 7 a.m.
But keep in mind the fact that the UK last time we could watch it at 6 p.m. and they could watch it in March of the following year.
Yeah.
Right.
That was some wrong stuff to do to our UK brothers and sisters.
That was not cool.
Yeah.
This little Anglophile over here was hurting hard for her brethren overseas.
Yeah.
But I feel like it was punishment for voting for Brexit. So I think they reap what they sow.
True.
Yeah.
Oh, what punishment is coming for us based on what our deal is? Oh, wait.
You just never get to watch it.
No. Well,
man, we get it tomorrow at least if the world ends 5 days from now.
Yeah.
Yep.
So let's talk about the last couple of episodes because
they're awesome.
They're my favorite. They're my personal favorite. I could skip over actually all the other 6 if I had to and just rewatch as rewatching. I could just watch those 2 and be like, yeah, I already know what's going on there. Just give me the baby. Like I would. I have to do it. And that going back to the line about the libations, that scene where they're trying to trick the client. Something that really stood out last night is just how quickly he turns like on a dime, where he's just like
so quick.
Yeah, he's just like, so blah 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 blah. I had toast for breakfast. Show me the baby.
Yeah,
and it's just
see the baby.
like, instant. I need to see the baby, and I was just like, oh, I forgot
like
how
like,
quickly.
the baby's sleeping. We'll all be very quiet.
Yeah. That's diplomacy of the best kind, though. You get them in the chair, you pour them a cup of tea, and as they're stirring it, you remind them that there's a gun pointed at the back of their head.
Yeah,
I feel so. Again, like to this show, even the Mandalorian. So even outside of being a queer coded show, the Mandalorians we learn for sure in this episode, they're minorities.
Yes.
Anyone who is a minority has met that person before who talks all the talk and they're going to sit there and wave their little power in front of your face. But we know they ain't got nothing. They are weak and they are grasping at straws for something. And the minute that dude is called out on something, he crumbles. And it is like, for me, I was like, every time I've been called some derogatory word under the boat and this little 5'4" short for stormtrooper comes right back at them and I watch them crumble every time, I was like, I got you. I was so excited. I was like, you weak little dude. Where's your power now? Where's your power now? I loved it. I loved it.
Yep.
It was so good. So good.
There's something that really stands out to me, and it's the start of episode 8. And it's the 2 stormtroopers talking. Now, that scene actually really stands out for Star Wars. Like, I mean, I don't think there's another scene like it in anything Star Wars, is there? Like a Taika Waititi comedy scene.
That's as meta as Star Wars has ever been.
Yeah.
Live action, I don't know, maybe animation, there might be stuff that's a bit more.
Maybe.
But that whole thing of just like making fun of the lack of aim, making fun of like, the boss might kill you if you're, and played by, it's Adam Pally and Jason Sudeikis, I think.
Yeah.
The two.
Ted Lasso is the first one that punches the baby.
For 15 plus years, Jason Sudeikis has been my Saturday Night Live boyfriend. I have the biggest crush on him, and to watch him do that, I was so mad. I was like, come on!
That, by the way, and I know I've said this like 300 times, I'm just going to say it one more time. For those of you who need a good laugh, especially in the world the way it is today, the Gamma Ray mashup reactions are fantastic. And at that moment when that happens, you see like everybody react and everybody says the same thing. I want them to kill that guy. I hope this guy dies a horrible death. It's the most fantastic thing you've ever seen because everybody has the same visceral reaction of the first time. And then the second time they're just mad. And it's so funny because I sat here by myself at 5 o'clock in the morning screaming at my television screen like, how dare you, and I'm just glad to know that everybody else's reaction was exactly the same thing of, oh my gosh, I want to kill you right now.
Well, they got it. I mean, they got the most violent death we have ever seen in Star Wars.
Oh, yeah.
That was
fantastic.
It was incredible. It was absolutely incredible.
Absolutely.
So them sitting there talking and just how calm Baby Yoda is. Let's just show it. Here we go.
Yep.
So here's this bit. This bit here though, when he bites his finger, oh God, I love it so much. And just the baby's so calm. He's just so calm. But then it cuts into this scene here with IG-11 and just how excited the baby is. It's probably one of my favorite sequences in the show. Just how quickly it all kind of just goes. It's like, yeah, we're just having a casual chat. And it's like, you just want to see the baby. And he's like punching the baby. And it's like, it's going on and it's drawing out. And then the way it kicks gears from that moment, the second IG-11 starts bashing them in, picks it up, and then that sequence where he's like breaking into the blockade. Oh my God!
When he jumps off and he lets the speeder go and it knocks people down, and you're just like,
well, this is what I like is so amazing about Mandalorian, because on the pew 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 level, that is like epic. It is probably up there with some of the best Star Wars of all of Star Wars. It's so good. But then right underneath it, that you don't notice it the first time you watch it, there's been so much dialogue around the violence that Baby Yoda has seen. We've adopted children in our family. It's a big part. Anyone who listens to us knows that. But one of our children in particular came from an incredibly violent background, and it is heartbreaking as all of those things. And then to watch this, knowing we don't know where Baby Yoda came from. We know he was in that pirate place for who knows how long. That was incredibly violent. He's been exposed to all this violence. He's got dark side tendencies. And the fact that he is grinning and beaming while all these people around him are being murdered brings this level to it that once you're past the holy crap, that was awesome. But what does this really mean? And then you get like you put the popcorn down, you pick up a rib, and you're like just ready to like get into it. Like, it's awesome. It's one of the things about the show that's just so good.
Yeah. Do we think that there's going to be a bit more of that kind of conflicting ideology coming up in season 2? I mean, let's talk about what we think about season 2. What's going to happen?
It's necessary. It's absolutely necessary for that kind of conflict to go on. If you're going to have any kind of character development, if you're going to have any kind of story be interesting, I think we're going to see. I mean, I'm hoping we don't see the tropes. I hope we don't automatically move into the story that we all think is going to happen because we've all seen television shows before. I'm hoping that there's a little bit more smoothness to that. I'm trusting Dave Filoni and crew to make that happen. What I think is going to happen in this episode or in this season, I think, is we're going to see growth, really a lot of growth between Mando himself, but also the relationship between him and Baby Yoda, the child. I don't like calling him the child. That just sounds like, I don't know. It's a thing. It's like people calling women females makes me annoyed for some reason. It's just too scientific. Like,
I get it.
Sorry, tangent. Anyways, I just really think that we're going to see that kind of character development, which is normal in a second season. But what I think is important is I think we're still going to see the action that people crave. I don't think that they're going to fall off of not understanding the good balance between the two, because so far they have done a good job. Because like you said, there's lots of, pew, 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 but there's also a lot of heart and character and really deep messages and things that are going on. Yeah. What I'm looking forward to is that chance to get to know Mando more, because let's be honest. I mean, I'm pretty sure in the trailer, he's said more than he said the entirety of the first season. Yeah. And even what he said tells you a little bit. See, some of the things we've seen in the trailer tell you a little bit. He arms the whistling birds and the kid, closes in. He knows, it's about to go down. Here we go. And that in itself is just, that's familiarity. We've done this before. So you're going to start to see that growing that happens between two beings that are in that kind of close proximity. And then they're on from there. But I think for me personally, that's what I'm looking forward to, is watching their character, their relationship develop, because I think that's going to be the basis from which you get the characters that are going to appear. you know, because obviously they're both in danger. Baby Yoda is definitely in danger, but that can't be the only reason that they introduce characters. There are going to be characters for other reasons.
Yep, absolutely. There's a point in that you just kind of raised, and Bryan as well, to your point. I think there's a very, very good opportunity for, just as in season 1, how Mando kind of had some conflict. You know, he has codes. He has these things that he lives by. One of them was the Guild Code. One of them is, the Mandalorian Code, and he chooses to go against the Guild Code. So I'm thinking I would like to see him have conflict with his Mandalorian Code ideology, to the point about violence and everything that was raised around children. I mean, raising the child is a huge burden. It's a massive undertaking and task. And in the meantime, like, having to be a father figure until you can find someone that he's meant to be with, while also fighting constantly, exposing him to all of these things. And I think that I think provides a really good opportunity for him to even maybe question his own life, his own upbringing, and what it's done to him to be this, you know, basically just this barely talking killing machine that isolates himself from the rest of the people around him. Doesn't take his damn helmet off, like it's gonna stink in there. But yeah, so I'm really hopeful for something like that, because so far I've been very happy about how they've worked with the tropes. You know, Rayven, I don't want to see tropes turn out to be the tropes you expect either.
Yep.
You know, I liked how they've inverted certain things. I like how they've taken things from like Westerns and not just said, okay, well, he's going to ride in and fix everything and leave them be and off he goes. Like, I like that they've kind of subverted that a fair bit, and I would love to see that continue. Yep. There was no question in that. Does anyone else have anything to say before we wrap up?
I will just say one thing. It's been very interesting post your Baby Yoda and cuteness video. Seeing some actually, not many, but a few negative comments about Baby Yoda. And what's fascinating
that exists.
I know it's fascinating, but this sort of falls into this thing again that I constantly harass Matt with. because I read every single comment we get on every single platform, and I check and I find the ones that I like or hate, and I send them to Matt, so Matt can't escape. And one thing I'm constantly sending to him is people will suggest what they want to see in Star Wars, and my caption is always the same. I'm always like, it's really interesting how people would love it if Star Wars was shit. And then I send him the suggestion. And one of the Baby Yoda ones was someone posted and they said, I'm sick of Baby Yoda. I want Baby Yoda off the show. I think the show should focus more on Mandalore culture and should have more Mandalore language and more of the history of Mandalore. And I was like, yeah, because that's what people want. Not this thing. Like, Baby Yoda has made the show into this huge crossover hit that has brought in tons of new fans. And obviously the thing that old fans hate the most is new fans, because new fans obviously will bring more things. I don't know. But yeah, it's just really interesting to see people being like, that surface level thing of like, no, he should be doing more badass stuff and not Baby Yoda stuff. So that's my thing. I am the complete opposite of that. I want more Baby Yoda.
Yeah. I can't understand why anybody would not love Baby Yoda. He's legitimately put together to entice you to like him.
But also plot-wise and story-wise, it works. It's not like, because people have been like, oh, it's just for merchandising. It's like, everything is for merchandising. It's Star Wars.
Merchandising.
Exactly. But the thing is, like, as Matt said, this show could be like Renegade or Walker Texas Ranger, and just every week he's just like solving some shitty crime, and it's just crap.
Not that Lorenzo Lamas isn't worth watching for an hour, because but go on.
Yeah, that is true. But this makes it to something interesting and something where it's a show about family, which is so Star Wars.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's going to be interesting too. I think this show, the introduction of the Darksaber, that final shot was so amazing because for the casual person, it's just a badass looking shot. And you're like, I've never seen a lightsaber that looks like that. Everything, the composition was so great. But then those of us who dig deep, that comes with so much purpose. So I'm really curious how they're going to bring in the complexities that just the introduction of the Darksaber brings into a much bigger audience, because the Darksaber has conversations about lightsabers. We've never had those discussions outside of animation or comics or books. You know, that we're introducing the really deep lore onto a much bigger audience. And now that we have a television show, I think Star Wars for the first time has been able to do that. And I think it's interesting. I'm curious how it's going to go with the helmet situation, because, you know, we've seen a different type of Mandalorian who doesn't necessarily follow the code. I don't get this business everyone's talking about. You know, they're what's the word I'm looking for? That they're rebooting. It's not rebooting. They're rebooting the Mandalorians, or, you know. We don't know the story yet. This is them. This is one small little group that we don't know why they are hiding behind the helmets that they are.
But we don't know. We also don't know that hasn't always been the case. Sorry, but that we don't know that has always been the case. The only two Mandalorians we've dealt with are Jango and Boba. Okay, now Jango Fett, just based on his behavior in the prequels, doesn't seem like a particularly honorable person to me. Doesn't seem particularly like the kind of guy who like grabs hold of a creed and, you know, takes it to his arm for the rest of his life. He just doesn't seem like the type. He looked like he was out to get that fat cash. So he took the helmet off all the time. No problem, no harm, no foul. But maybe it was because he wasn't putting it on for the same reason that someone else is. I mean, no one wears disguises in real life, right? I mean, none of us ever put on masks and pretend to be somebody we're not to fit in, right? No.
Yep. 100%.
No.
Sorry, I didn't mean to jump in there, but I had to. I just, you know,
no, it's a good point. I mean, you know, there's the functional side of like the animated series where I think you see my least favorite Mandalorian, Pre-Vizsla, like he takes his helmet off. Gar Saxon, like only the ones that have some kind of key role take their helmet off, because obviously it's more expensive to animate faces. Like, so there's a functional thing there. And we know that Din Djarin was picked up by Death Watch. So what happened and what changed within Death Watch? I think it's Sabine, obviously, like, but what happened post that? Like, what happened in the Night of 1,000 Tears? What has changed about Death Watch and all of that? That's driven them the way that they are. I mean, there's tons that can be explored in that, but having a whole show about Mandalorian culture and its languages and all that sort of stuff. Oh my God.
You're drawing out the people who aren't interested in that, you know, because some people are there for the pew 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 and some people are there for the cutie pants. So you got to toe a line somewhere in the middle.
People forget everything has to come back to Din Djarin. So why is the Darksaber there? It's there for something for Din Djarin to learn and understand. He is the center point of the entire series. Baby Yoda is not there for us to think he's cute, and Baby Yoda is there to serve the purpose of what Din needs to learn and where he needs to go. And the Darksaber is the same thing, and that's it's so. Just what does it mean to Din Djarin? That's what I'm the most excited about, as someone who's struggling with what it means to be a Mandalore. And now we get the thing that is like the icon of all Mandalores. And what does that mean to Din? I think it's going to be fascinating. How is he going to react to it? Because he hasn't seen it yet.
And is the end game, like after the show ends in like 5 seasons, that Din Djarin is like king of Mandalore with the Darksaber? Is that like,
or is he right now terrified of that idea?
Yeah. I think that's a good segue to talk about what we're going to be working on, because obviously the Darksaber is being handled by a certain someone, and we're working on a video. We haven't quite figured out what the video is going to be completely about yet, but we're going to be doing a crossover episode with Sisters with Sabers, aren't we, Rayven? Yes, we are.
Yes, we are.
Yeah,
And I
so
want
we're
to
gonna be-
I want to invite whoever was commenting on your question about the Darksaber, because that comment had me laughing for 10 minutes. You had asked a question, and whether it was Moff or Tarkin would be the most dangerous.
Yes.
And
Oh,
pretty much everybody came up with Tarkin. Somebody said Moff Gideon, and then somebody after that said anybody who said Gideon is a cop. And I nearly lost it. Sorry, had to take up that 40 seconds to say, oh
No,
my
no,
God, was that funny.
That was a good one.
I took a screenshot of that and sent it to a couple of my Star Wars friends who aren't, savvy, because it was that funny to me. Anybody who
Very
said
funny.
Gideon
It
is
was
a cop.
very funny. Yeah, no, I'm with you there. I laughed hard on that. So yeah, we're going to be working on something to do with Moff Gideon. We're working out the details of that. But yeah, like in the meantime, this is
Come and see us.
Yeah. Talk us through how people can find you, Rayven.
Well, on Twitter, we are at Sabers With, as you see on the screen there. We are on Instagram at Sisters with Sabers, and you can email us at sisterswithsabers@gmail.com. You can find me on Twitter at Janabella J. I am clearly the most boring of us, though, so, take that with a grain of salt. But come and listen to us babble. Yes, my hair, by the way, you can't see it, but it is purple, green, and blue right now. It's very colorful right now.
Damn,
I know that's why Bryan came, but it doesn't show on the camera. I work in corporate America. It doesn't show on camera on purpose. But yeah, that's where you can find us. And please come in and listen to us babble. We tend to veer off Star Wars sometimes, but we try to come back. But like Bryan said with his podcast, it's an opportunity for people to talk about things that maybe we can't talk about as openly with other groups, just because everybody in the room is part of the group, and it frees things up a little bit more. So feel free to stop on by, say hi, give us a comment, like us a little. We like it.
Yeah, everyone, please do go over and check it out. It's a very, very good podcast. And yeah, our video that we're working on, that's probably going to be about 4 weeks-ish, thereabouts away. There, something like that. A little more short term, probably what's coming out first, though, is the one that we're doing with you, Bryan. So let's talk us through. What are we working on there?
Well, we are going to talk about daddies in Star Wars and being a daddy and seeing Star Wars pre and post being a daddy, because it's a very different world before and after.
Yeah, so Sean's working on that one with you, I think. Sean,
Yes.
Yeah, talk us to a little bit about that.
We have two fairly different experiences, but I sort of watched Mandalorian once, but then when I watched it again, it was after I found out my wife is pregnant. So that's so we are 20 weeks pregnant today. She is. Thank you.
She is.
Yeah. It's very much her. So when I rewatched it and had that sort of thing of preparing for fatherhood and then just seeing the sort of journey, I was like, we're onto something here. So me and Bryan are working on something there to talk about the Mandalorian and found families and what we can learn from that about being a father. The best father on the show is Queel, but that's a different
100%
entirely.
Agreed.
Yeah. Yes. So that's coming soon. 2 weeks.
I am married to another man, so neither one of us were pregnant. We did not have babies.
Fair enough.
Hey,
yes,
here you missed out on the best part to miss out on. Because
nope. The youngest thing I know is 4.5, and I'm good at staying there.
Good plan.
But yes, you can find me at servingpinkmilk.com is our website, where we post our videos, our podcasts. We do a weekly playlist to give your Friday nights a dance party, because Lord knows the world needs to dance right now. We just launched a live stream on Friday nights, Pink Milk After Dark, where we are going to start this week talking about Mandalorian. Our regular podcast is with my husband, Tom, and it's more of a morning show where we discuss Star Wars on a casual fan basis, because Tom is forced to listen. And Pink Milk After Dark are our deep dives. It is with Mark P. and Emma, who I met at our queer roundtable. So we are going, the three of us, deep dive onto Star Wars here on YouTube.
Yeah, I've put a link to that YouTube channel, and also I've put a link to Sisters with Sabers in the show notes underneath the description on both Facebook and YouTube, so people will be able to find you there. Yeah, thank you everyone for tuning in. Sean, do you want to take us out as you do so oftenly very well?
Well, sorry, I was distracted. I'm supposed to have got back to work 25 minutes ago, so I was just answering an email. As far as work knows, I am at the doctor's. So yes, come find us at Blue Bantha Milk Co on Facebook and YouTube. Come like our Facebook page, follow us. Yes, our wonderful logo.
Very good logo.
And like and subscribe and comment on YouTube. Tweet at Matt. I got it right that time. Tweet at Matt at Blue Bantha Milk. You may catch him during the 15 minutes a day that he is on Twitter. And it changes. It's a movable feast, so who knows?
Scarcity. You got to work with scarcity. It encourages
brevity, all of wit.
Absence makes the heart grow fonder.
That's it. And also come and get on our Patreon. Give us some money.
I'm a patron. Be like me. Be like me. I'm a patron. Be like
Very
me.
nice.
We're doing some sort of.
We appreciate.
We're trying to do more lenses, more sort of like very quick little videos, but it's quite hard during lockdown because there's nothing happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How often do you want to see me touch the cat? Like, it was like I've got the cat on my shoulder again, trying to edit, and it's standing on the keyboard again. He keeps hitting it. Seriously, you know how many? So I've set up a new desk area, and one of the cats likes to jump up on it and just like be like, "No, I'm in your face now." But it's a very narrow desk. It's quite short. So when he jumps up, he bashes the keys. And throughout that edit, I had to just go undo because like he'd jump up, he'd smack something, and it would insert footage, delete footage, add a transition, and then hit play in one go. And I was like, ah! And of course, I
sent my boss an email today, so.
Oh, I think Anyway, yeah. Last thing, Sean.
Last thing, yes, check out our killer merch. I was about to do this, but it's not actually our merch. Check out our killer merch. Again, our logo is the best in the world, so get it emblazoned on your body.
You've been called out, Nike.
Yeah, come get us.
Yeah. And thanks again, everyone in the comments for participating. And
thanks,
before
everybody.
you go, please hit the like button on the stream before you leave. That helps bump the stream up once it's over, and so other people get to see it because it has been an amazing conversation. Yeah. And we will see you all for our next stream probably. I think we're doing them quarterly now, and that is 3 months for the less mathematically inclined. So we'll see you in about 3 months for another stream, and we'll have videos out in the meantime. And enjoy your evening and have fun with Mandalorian. Yes. This is the conclusion of our shared narrative.
Thank you.
And now I will put the end screen on for 20 seconds so that when we can do this, we can have the watch next come up, and I will just count us down and keep talking like this until I hit the end broadcast button. I could do this all day.
Oh, I imagine you will.
Where are the libations at?
Yeah.
I need it. Breakfast libations are needed. Now go see the baby. Okay, goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye.
Bye.